Facebook.com/NerdtopiaCast, also YouTube and podcast 38 seconds.
Welcome to NerdtopiaCast. I am your host, Doolin Dalton, as you know. So if you guys have been listening to the show, and we've mentioned this just about every week, I have been without a co-host since, this is episode 27 now, so since Steve and I started this thing, coming up on it, I think 6 months ago now. We started this thing 6 months ago, and about 20 episodes in, Steve kind of stepped out and decided that, you know, he was going to go be a father, which, you know, I can't fault him for that. More power to him. But I've been kind of limping along ever since. I did a couple episodes with our movie writer, Greg McIver, who also does the podcast FilmTopiaCast 3000. Then I stepped in with Charles Baserap, who's our comic book guy. And then there was the Oh So Dark week where I had absolutely nobody to run the podcast with, and I literally just sat there and ran commentary on the Avengers by myself.
All Avengers?
Well, I spread that misery out into 2 weeks. I made 2 weeks out of that shit. So it was just, so if you ever go back and listen to my Avengers commentary, it's like you get 2 minutes of silence, and then I make a comment. Another 3 minutes of silence. I make a comment. It was pretty god awful, but you know what? I made a commitment, damn it, to put out something. So I did. At least in the second part of it, I had my friend Liza and her husband kind of sit in on it.
That's cool. And
then last week I had my friends John Setzer and Zach Ball kind of sit in on it. So I found a semi-permanent. You know, we don't know how. I'll definitely be bringing him back on the show unless he just really fucks it up. But I've got my buddy Ryan Visingard here with me today. He's gonna be kind of filling in the gaps. I've worked with Ryan at my job. I always have to hesitate because I almost say the name of it every time I talk about it. I say at my job at a Wild West theme park that I won't say the name of. At least but everybody knows, you know, where I live at this point, so it's not really that hard to. If you wanted to figure it out, you could. But but Ryan is he's the tech guy. He's something of an artist. If you guys are if you've been to the Nerdtopia group, he's kind of pimped his wares there a little bit.
Tried to.
Yeah, well, yeah, he tried to.
You know.
I think Billy Malloy kind of.
He got some stuff off me.
He recommended you.
I felt bad because he had commissioned me to do a piece for his wife. Mm-hmm. And so I started working on it, and it took a little too long, and so I tried to pack him up a bunch of stuff, and I think I made him happy. I think he was pleased, and then his wife wanted something for him for their anniversary as well. So wasn't it a Pokemon or something like that? I forget what. I think it was a Pokemon. It looks like a Pokemon because it's an anime creature. No, I think you just looked at a picture of it and said, "Oh, okay, that was an anime creature. Okay, I can draw that out." There you go. Right. And then his wife wanted basically the Green Lantern, so I went ahead and put out Hal Jordan and who's the Black Lantern? I forget his name.
I was so getting ready to make a racist comment. I don't know, but I bet you he stole that motherfucking ring. No, I think that's Jon Stewart, not to be confused with the Daily Show's Jon Stewart.
Oh, okay.
So I put that'd be something to make a little Jewish Green Lantern.
That would be interesting.
I think in the New 52 they've got Baz something.
I heard something about them. Okay, so Hal Jordan and one of the other Green Lanterns has been, what is that, Sinestro, have been pushed to some like parallel in-between world or something. I haven't read it, man. I haven't read the New 52. Yeah, but I think something about the new Green Lantern now is an Arab American. I think that's what it is, because the rings came off the two that were banished to wherever they were banished to. Because I'm not a big Green Lantern fan, but right. And then apparently the ring found its way to this Arab dude who's going to become the new Arab. I think we have every nationality you could possibly have in Green Lantern. You have been chosen. Racism's fun, kids. Yeah. What were we talking about? No. Ryan is he's the guy that walks the grounds at my place of employment, and we would kind of shoot the shit. He's a big comic book fan. Our topic of discussion for a while, I think last season, like right as it was getting ready to wrap, was Smallville. Yeah.
And was always kind of the running joke with him because he is the Lex Luthor to my young Clark Kent, so to speak.
Yeah, I'd actually call him Clark a lot.
Yeah. Always call me Clark. Nobody ever gets it.
We look like weirdos.
Yeah.
But,
our boss would just look at us like,
what is wrong with these guys?
Yeah. Well, even your name in and of itself, like I think that was the running gag that I had with you for a while. That Visingard sounds like a fucking supervillain name. Like, so I'd walk up to you and go, I was like, "So Visingard, we meet again," and you're like, "Oh fuck, another day of this shit."
Well, it's funny because everybody at work calls me Visingard, and it's like, it reminds me of being in high school again. But yeah, it's pretty epic. I decided to name my son pretty epic too.
Yeah, your son Gabriel Xavier, right?
Yep.
I mean, so you've got what the Archangel, and then Professor X tacked on top of that, and then you've got the last name Visingard. So I think your son's going to be the Antichrist.
He might be. Who knows? I know.
One of these days, your wife's just going to be up on top of the. Gabriel, I'm doing this for you. Jumps head first off of your 2-story house here.
That'd be crazy. But yeah, basically, it's been pretty cool working with Doolin at.
Well, that's gonna get edited out.
Oh, I forgot to see the name.
That's okay. Oh, yeah, that's all right. That'll be edited. Don't worry.
Okay.
At that place of employment.
That place. Basically, at that place for the last 2 seasons. It's been pretty cool working with him. He's been a really cool person to work with at
at that Western theme park here in Western North Carolina.
But yeah, the running joke with us messing around about Smallville, and then it kind of moved into other things because I mean it's got to be weird being the new kid on the block when you first started. So
when you got to hear my rants and bitches, because I'd been a Smallville fan for several years. I watched it religiously for the first 7 seasons, and then. And I've told you this before, like comes season 7, I just said, you know what? I'm done with this show. And I stopped watching it. And apparently, like, season 8 was kind of shitty, but then, like, the last 2 seasons, they really started pulling stuff out of the DC toy box.
Well, I think they knew that they were heading toward an end. See, my experience
But they still could, I mean, I'm sorry, but if you can give me the fucking Wonder Twins, but you can't even give me Bruce Wayne somewhere there. You don't even, I didn't even care to see Batman.
Well, there were rumors of him being on there for a while.
Well, even in the earlier seasons, they were
talking about not him being Batman, but him being actually Bruce.
I would be okay with that.
Yeah,
bring in Bruce Wayne trying to find his way in the world and shit, and he comes through Smallville for whatever reason.
Clark's girl, that kind of thing. And
I always liked that dynamic.
And then of course go into a bat signal somewhere or a bat symbol somewhere toward the end of it all.
I mean, I wouldn't even had to have seen that to have been happy. Just see Bruce Wayne and see the dynamic between Clark and Bruce, and I would have been cool with that. But they never did it. But anyways, I digress. What I was getting at was he got to hear my fucking outrage when the 10th or the final episode aired, because I was like, all right, I'll get on board for the final episode, and I watched it, and I came back to work the next day. I was like, I think I grabbed you by your collar. I didn't even say anything. Just walked up like, what the fuck was that?
That was
bullshit.
Pretty much. I mean,
I was watching. I kept wanting to like it. And the only thing that I really enjoyed was the John Williams Superman theme that they kind of cranked out at the end.
Well, I had liked that. I mean, even in season 4 or season 3 when they were introducing Reeves.
Oh, that was back in season 2, man.
Was it?
Yeah, that was my first episode. It was a little taste of the the Krypton theme that.
And they twisted it throughout. If you listen to the soundtracks, which I downloaded all the soundtracks just for purposes for myself as I'm doing art and stuff.
Yeah.
But you can hear there is some influences there. Of course, there's that teeny bopper crap, but I mean, as far as the composed music, they sink some of it in there. They were really subtle with it, but there was a scene I think in that was one of my favorite episodes where he's talking to Christopher Reeve, and then and he said, and there's the message that that your ship came in, and this is our son Kal-El of Krypton, and then he turns around and. In the score, they slip it in. It's very subtle. You hear, dun, 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 yep.
And I went, ah! I went fucking ape shit, dude. It's like, it's the Superman theme.
See, what's crazy is my experience was totally different. You were religiously into it, and I kept on hearing about it, and I was probably in season 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. Basically, when you were exiting the show.
Okay.
I had moved up here to North Carolina.
Yeah.
And
I went
you're
to
from
Florida as well.
Yeah, I went to GameStop. And I traded in a bunch of games, and at that time GameStop had basically DVDs that you could buy.
Yeah.
And I bought every season up to season 7.
Yeah.
And I just got hooked. I mean, as embarrassing as the first kind of,
It's very Twilight-y.
Yes. And I mean, of course, they're trying to get a different demographic.
And the formula was the same for just about every damn episode. It was like Lana gets in trouble by some dude that has powers.
Because it's Clark's fault.
Clark. Everything's fucking Clark's fault, even though he had absolutely no say in it. But he's struggling with that. I wouldn't feel guilty about it. And then Lana gets into some shit. Clark has to go save her, and then she gets like knocked out at the last minute, so she never sees Clark use her powers. Like you can only use that. You can only use that so many damn times. But I can't say anything because I watched it.
Well, I think the reason, if you're a comic book nerd and you do get addicted to Smallville.
I get addicted to Smallville.
Addicted.
Tom Welling certainly bit me over at the end of it. I'll tell you that much.
Addicted to Smallville. It's basically because you crave the ability to see.
What do you crave?
The addiction. Basically, you want to see these characters recreated. You want to see them in a different light, and I think Smallville did that in a lot of ways, but it failed in a lot of ways as well. So.
Yeah, well, I think something with that show. I don't think he should have started it when he was 15 years old.
Right.
And I mean, because I don't really think.
The actors didn't look. Tom Welling sure didn't look.
I think he was 24. If I could be wrong, or maybe a few years younger.
He was like 38 when he stopped the show. Wasn't he 37?
Yeah. He's supposed. They ran for 10 years, so it started when he was 15. And if every season's a year, and if you've ever read Superman Birthright, which is kind of a cool comic book that kind of retells the origin stories. That one he's 25 when he becomes Superman. So if they're going by that one, and the show ran for 10 years, and he was 25 when he finally.
About right.
It's about right, but Tom Welling I think was, like I said, about 24 or so when that show started. I mean, and he held up well over the years. I mean, he still looked good, but there was no way that he'd pass for 15.
No, definitely not. I mean, the youngest looking character they had was Lana. And that's because I think she was like 16 or 17 when they hired her, or maybe 18. I'm not exactly sure when she was pretty young though, and they got her from Canada, which I thought was interesting.
Well, I mean, most of the show filmed in Canada, I think, because it's cheaper to film there than filming out.
Very true.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that's one of the reasons that I think in a lot of ways you want it to succeed, but like they didn't spend a whole lot of money on it, the show itself, and I didn't like the fact that the sets were always in the same places. But
I mean, if you go back and watch the first season, it's like halls of the high school, the farm, the farm and the barn, and Lex's mansion, and that's like and then occasionally there'd be like standing on the street somewhere, or the coffee house, and then everything else just kind of occasionally you bring in another set, but it was very much like. Almost sitcom-esque. Like, you remember watching sitcoms when you were a kid, and like every single scene took place like in the same
like Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, Saved by the Bell.
Zach's bedroom.
Full House would be another one because it was filmed on a set or whatever. But if they ever left to for filming somewhere else, that was always a big deal. Like, oh look, they're not in the house anymore.
They're going to Hawaii. With like a special episode
and then Screech gets the girl at the end, and everyone's like, what? No.
But yeah, I liked Smallville. I thought it was a good show. I hated how it ended. Personally, I mean, it was a big disappointment.
Well, I don't feel like they gave the fans what they wanted.
I know that Tom Welling didn't want to show himself in the suit, but it was bullshit.
He said that he didn't want to be branded as Superman for the rest of his life. But once whether you wear the suit or not, man, you take up that iconic role. You're Superman, dude. Right. I don't care that you never put on the suit. You're still Superman.
Like Reeves, he couldn't get past
shake it. But you know what? But then for Christopher Reeve, to come onto the show, and I think I may have said this on the show at some point before. You guys, I get really fucking preachy when I talk about Superman. But for Reeve to come on the show and then to hand you the torch from the Man of Steel for the Last Generation, and then for you to be like, I don't know, putting on the suit, then fuck you, man. Right. You don't deserve that.
Right. I could see that as an ultimate fan. See, my thing was I was okay, but I hated how they started twisting the continuity from the comic and the reality of Superman. I mean, they just started really messing with.
Yeah. Well, and like when you have 10 seasons to fill, like I understand stretching it out. I understand you've got to fill stuff with that and making your own continuity. I don't mind that so much. What I do mind is the way that they kind of tied up the loose ends that they had done by creating that continuity. Like Like, you had, throw Lex Luthor in Smallville. Okay, that's fine. In comic books, not so much. But then, he had 7 years before his character was out of there to fucking figure out Clark's secret, which, spoilers, he finally did. And then, like...
The next season, he's dead.
Yeah, the next season, he's dead. And then they bring him back, and they just... It's like some sort of venomous mind wipe or something they do to where he just doesn't remember.
Yeah, Tess Mercer or whatever.
So, I mean, it was just so cheaply done. Like, they threw it together, which, is partially Rosenbaum's fault not for just saying fuck you guys and leaving the show.
Pretty much.
But I think the writers should have had a contingency plan at that point. If you're gonna let Lex know his secret, do something else. Birthright had a great way around that. Did you ever read Birthright?
Mm-mm.
And
No, I didn't.
And Superman Birthright, Lex Luthor and Clark Kent were friends. They went to high. Lex Luthor went to Smallville High at this one, so he's about Clark's age. But he has such an egomaniacal type of complex. I mean, as he left Smallville, he said, "I'll be the greatest thing that ever came out of Smallville." So he never figured out Clark's secret in this, but his ego would not allow him to see who Clark Kent was, because the way he saw Clark Kent was just some punk reporter, and Superman was a different person because he was the greatest thing to ever come out of Smallville. So they kind of explained it a little bit through Birthright. I was thinking they'd go somewhere like that, but like I said, poor writing.
Well, my biggest problem with the whole... I mean, when I say the continuity, I don't mind them recreating the mythos of Superman and giving us a little taste of what it was like for him as a kid.
Sure.
And that whole thing. When they start, they're like, okay, the ratings are going down. I'm going to bring Doomsday into it. I mean, the whole 8th season with Doomsday was ridiculous.
I didn't see. That's when I was out.
I think it was 8 or 9.
I think it was 8. I'm pretty sure it was 8. But then they made him like he was like a Hulk type character where he transformed. Right?
Basically, I think what it was is he was Zod's son, and he was coming through this paramedic that was going out with what's her name? Chloe.
Yeah.
And like, he was trying to escape it, but then he realizes he can't escape it, so he embraces it. And it was just, I mean, the sad part was the visual effects, the makeup and stuff were great on Doomsday himself, but I mean, the story, I was like, okay, are you that desperate? Are you that? Because they got rid of, or because Rosenbaum basically screwed him. Yeah, because they needed a villain. And it felt like they pulled it out of the hat, and they didn't do a very good job with it. And that's when, I mean, like, as far as messing up continuity, I mean, it had its own continuity, but don't take a Doomsday iconic character like Doomsday who killed Superman, and he's not even Superman, and make him a drama kind of like, it's just retarded. It's just, I was really disappointed with that. Ninth season started picking up, I think, because the fact they were bringing in other characters and stuff like that. And then the 10th season, I watched the whole. Then they brought in Superboy, didn't they? It pissed me off because the first 9 episodes had nothing to do with him. It was just like I'm going to tie this up, and we're going to see what this character went. And it's like, okay, I get it. You want the cast to come back and say goodbye to the fans. Yeah. But at the same time, as a fan, I want to see a story. Instead of Clark getting married and then the can't get married, and it was retarded. The first 9, I was looking forward to the last 5 minutes when they were bringing Lex's dad back and stuff. I mean, even though it was stupid, even get me started on bringing Lex's even though it was stupid, it was still I like the actor. The actor's he's a great actor. He's a good actor. So, he is a very good actor. I was very happy to see him come back because he played that character so well, and I was just happy as a fan to see that character. Yeah. It had nothing to do with like him being involved with the story, because if you go with the story, it's retarded. Yeah. I mean, we're going to go, alternate how do we bring him back, and how are we going to bring him back evil? That's pretty much what they were trying to do. Because they didn't have, like I said, they really got fucked when Rosenbaum left, because they didn't have, they were scrambling to find villains on the show at that point. But, but the problem is, like, you went however many seasons before Lex finally took that dark turn to villain. He was still a good guy in the first couple of seasons. Well, he's just misunderstood. He's, Well, his intent, he had good intentions. Right. Anyways, this turn, it's totally cool. We just talked about Smallville for 20 minutes. I don't think we're going to have a loss for content today, which is a good thing. So, yeah, today I was just kind of filling stuff out with Ryan to see how the show went. I think we're going to go pretty well today, man. And before we jump into the Weekly Geekies, let me ask you this, because Steve and I have this thing on the show, or at least we have a running thing. Now, I've not discussed this with you prior. I haven't said anything to you about it. I didn't pay you off to say anything. Okay. You said I'm kind of a Superman guy. You said first and foremost,
you're a big X-Men guy.
Right.
Okay. You're a huge fan of the X-Men. What is the name of the arch villain of the X-Men? The most well-known one.
I would say Magnetto.
Magnetto. You want to say that name for me again?
Magnetto.
Okay, one more time.
Magnetto.
Magnetto, okay? For those of you listening, it's Mag-fucking-Neato, all right? Magnetto. Okay. Steve has this thing that he likes to do, and he likes to mispronounce the name. Whether he actually believes that that's how the name should be pronounced, or he's being stubborn, or he's just fucking trolling me, I don't know, but he likes to refer to it as Magnetto.
I know somebody who does that as well.
That's fucking annoying.
Magnetto.
He's like, look, it's a magnet, not a magnet. And I'm like, no, fuck you, because a Magneto is an electric powered...
as far as I have to say, go back to Stan Lee, and Stan Lee says it Magneto. He doesn't say Magnetto.
Yeah, well, he also, if you go back to like one of the earlier episodes, Steve had his, and I'm using my air quotes here, had his Uncle Stanley on the show.
Oh.
His Uncle Stanley, who pronounced it Magnetto. All right, but I rebutted because I had my Uncle Ian on the show. Ian, who I won't say what his last name is, but he is something of a film actor.
Right.
You've probably seen him before. He's a British gentleman.
Yes.
And he knows a little bit about the X-Men, and he pronounced it the proper way. So.
Yeah, it's Magneto, man.
Yeah.
I've been a big Magneto fan for years, so.
Yes.
Sorry, Steve, I'm not down with the Magnetto. That sounds kind of stupid anyway.
But that's just his thing. But okay, we're going to jump into the Weekly Geeklies. And so since we're talking about comic books, most of our stuff today is going to revolve around comic book films and television that we've got coming to the big screen and the small screen, as the case may be. So first of all, we're going to jump off. I read last night Tim Miller, the director for the proposed Deadpool film. Deadpool. Let me try it.
Deadpool.
Thank you, not Deadpool. We could start a whole thing.
See, once again,
we could
go back to some kind of phallic symbol.
Yeah. We could do this whole thing where I pronounce it Deadpool and then you correct me every time. It's going to get really annoying really fast.
Deadpool.
So he took a few minutes to talk about the progress of a Deadpool film, and he had this to say about it. We've turned in an amazing script and done some early tests and visual development that I'm confident would get the fans stoked. And Ryan, which I'm assuming he's referring to Ryan Reynolds, still loves the project. So it's really up to Fox as to whether or not the film happens. All I can do is hope and beg periodically that it be allowed to move ahead. So we've heard a lot about this film, this Deadpool film.
I think within the last 2 years there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of talk.
Right. And they talk about it a lot, and then they kind of move off of it. And then Ryan Reynolds had signed on for it, and then they sat on it, so he went off to go do the Green Lantern movie. Anyways, I want to see it happen. And Ryan Reynolds, I think, is great. Now, somebody also told me that that kind of the casting for Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Of course, if you read the comic books, his face is fucked up underneath. But they always ask him in the comic books, "What do you look like under the mask?" And his response is, "I look like Ryan Reynolds."
Oh.
Yeah. So that was a little tongue-in-cheek thing to cast Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, which I think is perfect.
Right.
But I don't know if this would be like a spin-off of X-Men Origins or not, which I'm assuming it would be. Since
I
you have
would
the same
hope
actor.
not.
Well, but you have the same actor.
Well, that's fine. X-Men Origins was great, but the Wolverine film, Wolverine X-Men Origins series, was garbage. I mean, let's face it. It was. I mean, they put in some stuff that you enjoyed as a fanboy, but it was in the same realm as X-Men, the third one.
Well, the only thing that bothers me is just kind of that really bothers. Like I liked some bits and pieces, like the opening scene. Like it was taken straight out of Origin. If you ever read Origin, taken straight out of Origin, I absolutely loved it. And then you want to go ahead and make Victor Wolverine's brother. Okay, I can get on board with that.
Well, they speculated a little bit about that kind of thing, but they never. It's more like his,
in Origin it was.
Yeah.
Well, in Origin it was speculated that it was his half brother.
His half brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't come right out and say it, but it was pretty obvious.
Right.
And I was okay with that. I didn't have any problems with that.
Well, once again, like for me as a fan, as a fanboy, I was frustrated because they took a bunch of different stories, they slammed them into one film.
Yeah.
Sabretooth doesn't look like a shaved head dude. He's a huge, woolly mammoth looking.
And Liev Schreiber did a good job.
Oh yeah, I'm not dogging his acting skills. I mean, it was cool.
You also noticed they didn't call him Sabretooth in that movie.
That's true. They called him Victor
they
a lot,
put Sabretooth in the first movie. and they just kind of.
Well, if they do what the comic books did, I mean, they can explain it away as clone type stuff. I mean, Victor's been around in the comic books a gazillion times as clone.
Right.
Even in the recent incarnation, he was a clone that Sinister had created. So, I mean, they could do that easily in the films themselves, but I don't think they have enough time and money to go back, and I think that's why they're kind of rebooting it with the Wolverine. So,
yeah.
And I don't think you're going to see anything with Sabretooth. It's more samurai, Silver Samurai.
Yeah, you get all that good Japanese flavor in it because
right.
in the comic books.
Which is good. I hope they go that direction, and I hope they pull it off well. But like I said, for me, Wolverine Origin was, I just felt it was garbage. And I think it was great to see Hugh Jackman play Wolverine. It was good to have him back. But overall, the film story was slamming 4 or 5 different years of stuff into one. I mean, it's the same thing when I got the third X-Men film.
Right.
I was pissed because I wanted to see the stories that they were presenting. I mean, but they presented
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but X-Men 3 did what Spider-Man 3 did, which was take all these different storylines and then just try to mash them all together.
Exactly. And Morrison was one of my favorite writers for the X-Men series because he was trying something different. He was mixing things up.
Right.
And he was bringing character to some of the characters that were kind of stupid, like Cyclops.
Mm-hmm.
But when you slam 4 or 5 different stories over, you have a 30, 40-year continuity.
Right.
I mean, you have to pick the best stories, elaborate, spin off those kind of stories, but don't take 4 or 5 different ones and slam them into one film thinking, oh, this is what the fans want.
And don't fucking do Dark Phoenix unless you can do it the right way, man.
It definitely was not pulled off correctly. So.
Yeah, we'll get more into X-Men here. We've got some X-Men stuff to talk about, so we'll get to this.
Of course.
I don't want
to the fanboy that I am. I'm diving off Deadpool.
It's funny because we had planned. I sent you a thing like this is what we're going to talk about on the show. And you sent me the same article that I read last night. I was like, yep, okay, and it has to do with X-Men. So I was like, okay, Ryan's already on top of it. So
my biggest question for you, Doolin, is if they do a Deadpool film, they're not going to do R like we want.
We don't know that, man.
I have
as long as you don't make it to where he shoots optic blasts out of his eyes like Cyclops.
Well, here's the thing. If they do the film correctly, we would all hope for an R rating. And my thing is,
it would be funny.
Right. My thing is, okay, so they started doing the Marvel Knights thing, kind of, with the Punisher and Blade. These are all films that aren't exactly the best films that Marvel has put out, but they're, Ghost Rider and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
They could put Deadpool in that realm and make it adult. It seems like they have, if they wanted to do this offshoot, you have your PG-13, big-budget films. They could easily do indie-type films.
Right.
With these, like Punisher, Ghost Rider. Reboot these Fantastic Four. Well, as much as we want to see them.
That's going to happen, by the way.
But I know they're going to do a big budget. But I'm just saying, the Marvel Knights brand could easily move into more of the adult genre films.
Yeah.
And definitely push those. And I think, for me, as dark as lighthearted as Deadpool can be, it's also very dark. I mean, there's a lot of blood.
It's dark humor.
Exactly.
Dark humor.
I hope, and I know they could pull it off as a PG-13. I know they could. But it just won't have the edge that Deadpool has. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And here's what I want to see in the Deadpool movie. Break the fourth wall. Like, just turn, look directly into the camera, and talk to the audience.
Because that's pretty much what he does.
That's what he does. And that's, like I said, Deadpool's one of his power seems to be the fact that he realizes the fact that he is a comic book character or a character in a movie, and he will consistently acknowledge the fact that he is inside of a comic book.
Right.
I think there's a picture that's going around on the internet that's like Bullseye comes in, it's like, Deadpool, how long's it been? And Deadpool's like, back in issue 16, I think we saw each other.
Well, I think that's kind of cool because, I mean, once again, being an X-Men fan, they threw him into Uncanny X-Men.
Yeah.
Or Uncanny X-Force.
Yes.
And I thought it was one of the best characters to throw in there because literally he would turn around and look at the reader and talk to the reader, which is funny. I think that's the humor that you love about Deadpool is that there's, he's kind of personable in a way because he tries to connect to the reader by doing that. I think that's interesting how the writers do that with him.
Well, I don't know if you have not probably looked at the website or not yet, but one of our English correspondents, Chris, every week does a little segment he likes to call Mockatopia. So he listens to the podcast, and then he goes back and he does a little picture of Deadpool providing some sort of commentary on whatever the podcast was this week. So every week you get to see Deadpool run a little bit of commentary on our podcast. So when I was at Dragon Con kind of pimping out NerdtopiaCast, I was going over there trying to get my picture with as many Deadpools as I possibly could. Because I'm like, you're the unofficial mascot of our podcast. We have to get you in here. So yeah, so Deadpool's been very kind to us. I just hope that they're kind to him in this film.
I think Ryan Reynolds is a great pick, though. I do believe.
Well, he's got that smart ass kind of wit, you know.
Right.
I mean, you got to see it a little bit.
Well, and I mean, in his films too, Ryan Reynolds' films. There's been quite a few times, like in Van Wilder, he turns to the camera. And talks to the camera.
Right.
And there's some kind of quality about that grabs you, whether you're reading it, whether you're watching it. It's just kind of cool, you know. And I do believe that he's a perfect fit for that film. I'm just hoping. I mean, as a fan, what kind of villain would you want Deadpool to go up against? Ooh. I don't know who I would even put in the film with Deadpool.
I don't care.
To me, he's like his own.
I don't even care. You know, just put him up against lots of red shirts for him to.
There you go.
Stab. That's stab and shoot. That's it. That's all I care about. But no, man. Done speculating on that. I think I ran through all my Deadpool material. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and move on. Marvel, since we're on the subject, Marvel announced at New York Comic Con a couple weeks ago that actor Clark Gregg will be reprising his role as Agent Coulson for the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series. So that's interesting. You know, I think me and Greg, when I did an episode with him a couple weeks back, we talked a little bit about the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series and whether or not, you know, maybe we'd see Samuel L. Jackson just kind of make a cameo in the pilot.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, for one episode.
Well, you would hope so.
For like one episode, yeah, because just to kind of kick.
I mean, it's just the money. It's the money, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could. I mean, if you just have it in like one scene, you pay for one scene.
Well, you would hope Marvel was smart about it and said, okay, we're signing you on for these next 3 Avengers movies and these little spots here and there.
Yeah, I'm pretty
sure.
So
then you could twist them in that way.
Pretty sure his contract was only for like 5 movies and the Avengers film, something like that. But I mean, you pay him his little nut and let him get on there.
Samuel L. Jackson works for the money.
Yeah. But I don't think it's going to be Samuel L. Jackson because now they're talking about bringing Agent Coulson in on the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series. And that's probably just going to be like a one-time thing, kind of watch the pilot. But it's interesting though because spoilers here. If you haven't seen it yet, Agent Coulson, as of the time of the Avengers movie, is dead, or at least we're led to believe that he's dead.
Right, and he's the reason the whole Avengers kind of assembled.
Right, they needed that. As Samuel L. Jackson said, they need that push. And so, Coulson, who was very much a childlike fan of Captain America, dies, and so you see him dead. So there's no word on if they're going to somehow resurrect him, if his death was faked, or if the show will be set prior to the Avengers.
I'm hoping that that's the ticket right there. I think if they do a prior to Avengers, kind of showing how S.H.I.E.L.D. was created, how S.H.I.E.L.D. was made.
Flashbacks.
Exactly. I think that would be the best way to pull off this show. As a fanboy, that's what I would want because, you're not going to get those big-name stars to come in and do cameos.
Right.
So to place it during or in between, as a fan, you're not going to get what you want.
Right.
As a fan, if they go backwards and do the whole prequel thing and show maybe even Nick Fury starting it in flashback kind of thing, I would totally be down with a series like that. And then you could easily throw in different characters that S.H.I.E.L.D. has run into throughout its past, so that you're not worrying about the Avengers as much.
Flashback and just CGI and eye patch onto Samuel L. Jackson bitching about snakes on a plane or something like that. This was the conception of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm sick of these motherfucking snakes. No.
Well, he had, what is it? He had the
Howling
Commandos.
Just go through all the other Samuel L. Jackson movies and just put an eye patch on.
Yeah, that would work.
There you go. You can get to see. I used to be a contract hitman, and you will know my name is the Lord.
Pulp S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. fiction, whatever the case may be.
But yeah, I wouldn't mind I'm interested. I'm interested to see where they go with it. But they have to grab me within the first. Maybe I'll give the first episode, second episode in. If they haven't grabbed me, I'm not going to be interested.
It'll have to be bad for me to turn it off, man. Like remember, I think it was a couple years ago when The Cape aired
Yeah.
I saw the preview for that.
They hyped this up.
I got so psyched about the hype, and I watched the first episode, and I said, nope, we're done here.
It was garbage. That was
And
sad.
people were like, no,
they did hype it up pretty damn good.
They did. I mean, and the trailer looked amazing.
I mean, him standing on the buildings, it felt like Batman without it being Batman kind of thing.
Well, at that time,
the dark and mysterious thing.
At that time, Smallville had just wrapped one, and then I think Heroes had just been canceled. And so everyone was like, okay, we need a superhero TV series for the screen. Right. And then this show comes along, and you're like, perfect, this will work. And then, no, it didn't work.
Well, it's like The Spirit. Did you ever see The Spirit? Samuel Jackson?
You know what? I have that sitting. It's collecting dust on my shelf.
It's garbage.
Yeah, I mean, watched a little bit of it.
Cinematically, looking at it, visually, it's cool because they did it in the style of Sin City.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's very stylish. Like, I dig it.
But overall, I mean, it was like, what is this garbage? And then something about Samuel Jackson being an octopus, and I was like, this is garbage. This is just sad. So, but yeah, I think S.H.I.E.L.D. could do well if they do a prequel to showing how S.H.I.E.L.D. started and what their initiatives are to go and get these superheroes together, and if they've run into other superheroes.
Yeah, well, I mean, but yeah, and you know, that's very possible because, you know, if you watch, and when they first started setting all this up with Iron Man back in 2008. You know, Iron Man comes through, and Tony Stark comes home, and, you know, like a pissed off ex-girlfriend, Nick Fury is just kind of waiting for him in his living room and sitting in the shadows, like, you think you're the only superhero in this world, Tony Stark? So that right there leads us to believe that there were superpowered beings, you know, long before.
Well, it'd be cool,
Iron
like
Man.
I said, if they did like a period piece even with it, you know, they do flashback episodes.
Yeah. Because I mean, you've
got
got like
in the 30s, you know, like it's right before they go and get Captain America. So they do like a lead-in episode with an off character that leads into the whole idea that a Captain America was going to be created. Yeah. Or a 70s type deal where they're making fun of all the retarded 70s crap with
Luke Cage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could do all kinds of stuff with it. And hopefully they will. I mean,
what was his bit? It was Heroes for Hire, wasn't that his thing?
I think
Luke Cage and I want to say, wasn't it like Power Fist or something?
I think it's Iron Fist.
Iron Fist?
The immortal Iron Fist?
Oh, it could. Okay.
I was never a fan.
I never read it.
All I know is Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Wanted Nick Cage's name after Cage.
Don't get me started on Nick Cage. I'm gonna name my son Kal-El. I'm gonna put him in a rocket ship.
Well, you know, I heard that there's a secret piece of film out there that's floating around about him being Superman through the Tim Burton.
Oh no! Did you not know about that years later? Let me tell you about this shit. For those of you who don't know, back in the mid to late 90s, 96, 97, Kevin Smith was commissioned by Warner Brothers Studios to write a script for Superman Lives. Anyways, long story short, Tim Burton came on to direct it.
Right.
Thank God
I've heard about these rumors.
Thank God. Oh, no, this happened, man. This is not a rumor. This happened.
There's test footage, right?
I don't know that there's test footage. I know that photos exist out there of Nicolas Cage wearing the suit, and it was like all black, and he had long hair. I mean, it was just fucking stupid. But when Kevin Smith, if you ever watch An Evening with Kevin Smith, he talks about it when he goes into John Peters' office, the producer on the set. He's like, we're gonna move forward with this. I don't want to see Superman fly. That's number one. And two, I don't want to see him in that stupid-ass gay blue and red suit.
Oh, my God.
Kevin Smith's like, okay, the suit and the flying, fine, Superman.
Is Superman.
Yeah, he's like, all those scenes with him flying around saving people's horse shit. I don't want to see it. So those right there were the stipulations laid down. No suit, no fly, no tights, no flights, basically. So at that point, you're just making Smallville, but it's Superman, but with no costume and no flying. So they gave him this stupid-ass black costume.
Anyway, they tried to go after when he came back, when he died. That's the black costume.
I think, yeah.
I mean, all I'm picturing is like Con Air's version of Nicolas Cage with the receding hairline.
Why won't you put the bunny in the box?
So I'm like, what were they thinking if they were going to pull Nick Cage into... Anyway, I mean,
it was, and on top of that, you had Tim Burton directing, so it would have been big sweeping shots with the demon children. It'd be the ship flying through space with the planet exploding.
It'd be like the opening to Mars Attacks all over again.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so I'm very happy that I mean, for as much as we bitch about, and I won't beat a dead horse because I've talked about it before, but as much as I bitched about Superman Returns on this show, that movie would have been so much worse. At least in Superman Returns, he wore the damn costume and flew around, you know. That would
I'm
not
not
have
even
been...
going to go into Superman Returns.
No, we won't.
Because my wife likes it, and that means that I can't.
Well, of course she likes it. It was all about fucking emo and romance and shit.
Come on! Superman peeking in on Lois Lane? That's not what Superman does. He's a Boy Scout. The motherfucker ain't ever going to go and peek on a woman.
No, we're...
I mean, we would. I mean, let's be real about it. But Superman, he won't. That's how they wrote it.
Yeah, that's it.
So
He's
stick
like,
to the...
Superman like, hey, buddy, even though I could fuck your wife, I won't. You know?
Anyway, since we're off on a tangent, I guess what? So... We're basically talking about S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show.
Right.
So,
right, no, it's okay. It's my show. We can go off on as many fucking tangents as we want to.
Good. I wasn't sure.
No. I call the shots around here, damn it. You should hear some of the tangents Steve and I have gone off with over the last couple months, dude.
Oh, yeah?
Insane. But, so that's with the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. And so that's going to be part of the larger world that Marvel's kind of creating.
I do like that. I have to admit, Marvel
is smart.
They're doing the same thing that they did with the comics,
right?
That they're doing with the films.
They're making a cohesive universe. You know, it'd be great if Marvel could get all of those licensing properties back.
Well, we won't even go into that. That's why, unfortunately, Spider-Man, I don't think we'll ever see, and because Fox will not give up its shot. I think it's
Sony. I think it's Sony that has Spider-Man.
It's every 3 to 2 years they have to make a film. X-Men and all those films.
And that's why we're seeing
relinquish the rights.
Right. Okay, and I think it's Fox has Fantastic Four and X-Men right now, and Sony has Spider-Man. Well, I'm not sure who else has what.
Right. I think Fantastic Four is owned by somebody else.
I'm pretty sure it's Fox. We'll get to that because, like I said, we're going to go back into X-Men.
Well, I'll tell you the best thing that Marvel has done.
What?
Is get in with Disney. As much as I would hate to say that, but
that's why I think both you and I were Disney employees at some point. I mean, I talked about it a little bit here on the show, but
I've toyed around a little bit.
You stuck your foot in the door and said, nope.
Nope. You know, going to the Disney, was it 5:30 in the morning, having a guy screaming at me in my face to tell me to be happier.
It's like in Disney boot camp. Be happy!
Exactly.
You've got some big fucking Sergeant Slaughter.
The whole reason was I heard rumors that you could go to the Tower of Terror and the haunted house, and you didn't have to smile. And then I found out there's like a 4-year,
wants to do it.
There's a 4-year waiting list
for people that don't want to fucking smile anymore.
But I think, like I said, I think for Marvel, since we're on the whole Marvel universe expanding into the film genre,
yes,
I think their best bet was to go with Disney, because Disney can back them, and I think that push is what making these films look so good. I mean, Iron Man and all that, it's because Disney wants a good product. Marvel wants a good product.
Yeah.
If they want to spread out and branch. Unfortunately, Disney, you know, you can already see with their marketing campaigns, they've taken over the world in their own little small way. I think that's great because it's going to make the comic book genre knock it up a notch. So that these other guys, you know, no offense, DC, you've got to knock it up a notch. You know what I'm saying? It's very hard, but I think that's their best bet is to actually. I think it's really good that they went with Disney. So
yeah, I think so too. And so they're doing all this. They're building this cohesive universe. You know, they're marketing a TV series off of it. I mean, what else could you want?
I heard rumors of Hulk. Is that still?
I haven't heard anything about Hulk yet.
I heard a little bit about it, and I was like,
well, I heard it for a while. They were talking a Hulk TV series on ABC.
Right, exactly.
But I haven't heard anything about it. Maybe that became S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know. I'm not really certain.
Because that's a character you could pop in there, but I wouldn't want to make a TV series around it.
I mean, but then would you recast Bruce Banner again?
No, I don't think I would, because I think that actor,
Mark Ruffalo,
he's well known and stuff, but he's not well enough known not to go on a TV show. I don't think he's one of those guys who's going to be like, well, I'm too good to go on TV.
I don't know. Maybe
series.
after the success of the Avengers, maybe he is. I don't know.
Well, and he played Hulk very well. I mean, he's the best besides Edward Norton.
Edward Norton would have been my first choice. Still.
Exactly, but we all would have wanted. But he passed the torch on to him, and I think he did a great job with it. So
agreed. But anyways, talking about movie with Avengers 2 or Avengers and Avengers 2. Avengers 2 will come out in 2015. Warner DC has fucking superhero indie, man, and or movie indie, what have you. And we talked a little bit about this some weeks ago. But Warner Brothers DC finally won its battle against the Schuster estate. Now, if you know anything about this, they've been kind of going back and forth with the family of Joe Shuster, I think, the creator of Superman. I mean, and fair enough, because he didn't make shit off of that character. He really didn't.
None of them did. But I mean, back in the 1940s and 30s, I mean.
But you got work where you could, and you created the character, and that's what you were paid to do. But you could have made the money off of that maybe years later. But he's been long dead. And this is his family saying, "Hey, my granddad created Superman. Can I have some money?" Yeah.
Right. See, what the big thing was, unfortunately, back then, they weren't as business savvy. The comic book industry wasn't what it was.
Yes.
I mean, it was more Sunday
comic strips.
Exactly. And so I think, as much as you hate the Schusters, you have to give them some credit, because there would be no Superman without them.
Well, I'm pretty sure they cut them a check like a while ago. Like, here's a certain percentage of what we've made on Superman over the years.
Right. Well, I mean, with the new film coming out and the toys and the this and the that and the this and the that, they're going to want more money. You know that's going to happen.
Oh yeah. But
DC has won.
DC has won, and so now I know that they changed like certain elements when they were making Man of Steel, which is why you see, I think, they've got a completely new Superman origin. Superman doesn't wear the trunks anymore. That was always kind of a big thing. They did away with.
Did you see Superman? Was it Earth 2? I think it was called Earth 2.
Was that an animated?
It was a graphic novel.
I didn't read it.
It seems like they're kind of going off that for the new film.
Okay.
I think what they're doing is the reason they're doing the reboot kind of is to give him a more realistic feel. I also think that they're going to throw that whole emo thing in again, like Spider-Man.
I don't think so. I think they're going for
the Wanderer.
I think they're going to go for a darker Superman this time around.
I think that's what I mean. In a way, I think from the previews you've seen, from the pictures, I think what it is it's going to be him drifting for about 45 minutes to an hour.
Clark Kent on The Deadliest Catch.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know where I'm at. Who do I become? What am I? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then I think he's going to be forced into becoming Superman by the return of Zod.
You think they're gonna kill off Paul Kent in this one, or do you think he's going to be around? I mean, because different elements, like in the movie, you kill off Paul Kent in the first 10 minutes. And Smallville, he was around for like 5 seasons or something before they killed him off. And then in some of the comic books, he's still around. It just depends.
It depends on what they want to do with Superman. I mean, that blow, losing your father, is a serious blow to anybody's ego.
Sure.
Especially if you're close with your fathers. And so I think if they want to give Superman a darker kind of feel, maybe they will. Maybe they'll even have one of the villains accidentally kill him when he's in Metropolis or something. Yeah. And that just sparks this whole, I've been hiding for years and years and years. It's time for me to
there you go.
So
and that'd be a little bit closer to a Batman thing.
Yeah, but I think what it is I think what they're going to do is he's going to have two moral sets.
Yeah.
Okay, he's going to be like, I can rule the world.
Yeah.
And be the badass that I am.
Yeah.
Or I can go off into exile because I have these powers and no one understands me.
Yeah.
And then
I can be the light.
I can become the light.
Yeah.
And I think what they're going to do is it's a self-journey film. It seems like what they're doing with it. So.
And I haven't heard a lot since, but I know that somebody had told me a while ago, and this is speculation because I don't have confirmation on this, or this is just fanboy speculation that's been passed around from one person to another. Right. But somebody has told me that since they're kind of redoing the whole origin thing, the Kryptonians in this version of the story were not a peace-loving people.
They're like a war race?
They were a war race and conquerors and everything, and I think that was a big thing in Smallville. Like, Clark was afraid that, Jor-El was a warmonger that sent him to rule or whatever, and that might have been the case here. And so there would be that innate struggle between, I was raised by this man who taught me to love and to respect life and my powers, and then there was this man who sent me to conquer. So they might take a darker turn with Jor-El.
They kind of did that in the Earth 2 Superman series.
Yeah.
They kind of did that. I mean, I thought it was a great graphic novel because him in his teenage years, he just graduates high school. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know where he belongs. They taught him his whole life to reserve his powers, not show the world his powers. He gets a job as a paper boy type deal, and then from there, what happens is you have an alien race come in and start trying to conquer Earth.
Yeah.
He realizes who he's supposed to be. He gets over his depression and becomes Superman. And it was a very good story. If they kind of stick to that script, I think the film will be great. Of course, we're thinking about the crab catching series.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, we were watching the trailer, and I was like, he's on a fucking boat. Like,
well, my big thing was,
hell?
I mean, I've never seen him with facial hair except for maybe a handful of times. So it was interesting to see him sitting there on the boat with the facial hair.
Right.
It definitely did make you feel, okay, this is going to be like a drama, but at the same time, you know they're going to mix in those elements that we all love, which is kicking some ass and throwing people through buildings.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you've got Zod, and then we talked about it a little bit last week. Another the speculation they're throwing out there, and I think they're keeping it under wraps, would be Black Zero. They think they're going to throw Black Zero in there, which would, if you didn't listen to last week's podcast, once again, Black Zero was he was in a story arc entitled "The Man That Destroyed Krypton," and he was a mercenary that was hired to destroy the planet.
Huh.
So, I mean, if they're going back and doing an origin story, that would tie in. You know, maybe Jor-El started a war with this person or something like that.
If they're going to go for like a more real feeling type film, that would be great. I don't know who this character is. I haven't done enough research.
I don't know much about him either, other than what I researched.
Well, I'm more of the, I read the comics for a little while in the 90s. My problem was that as much as I love Superman, he bores me. So I kind of fell out of my Superman loop. But personally, in the films, I'm glad that they've decided not to do Lex. We're all burnt out on Lex.
Right.
We all know who Lex is, blah, 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 blah. I'd love to see someone like Brainiac.
Yeah.
I like the Brainiac character. I like, being the construct that was the computer that was at Krypton. I mean, that's all Bruce Timm, but I love Brainiac as a character. I'd love to see Metallo. He could be a little side character.
Yeah.
Metallo
maybe later in the series.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different avenues, but
I feel like if they did Metallo in there, it would be to Superman what Jonathan Crane was to Nolan's Batman, basically.
Right.
It'd be a good little side character.
Yeah, exactly. They could throw in all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm hoping for the best. So
I am too. But now that they've won that, they don't have to worry about what they're going to carry over to the movie. So they're talking about they're going to start having ties into the Justice League. Now, here's the thing where I think DC or Warner DC, they're some cocky motherfuckers, because they're already saying we're going to go for a summer 2015 release for
JLA.
For JLA, that's when the Avengers 2 is supposed to come out. So like already, like they're going right after.
Well, their
Marvel.
biggest mistake.
Yeah. That's right.
Their biggest mistake, basically, is Marvel has been building the franchise by putting out Iron Man, by putting out Thor.
One at a time.
Exactly, and then building into the mythos that is the Avengers.
Yes.
Problem with them just releasing a JLA is that they're not. I mean, we have Nolan's Batman, but that's not going to play into this.
No, it's
we'll
gonna
have
be different.
Superman to build it off of.
Yeah,
and
Superman,
a failed Wonder Woman TV show. I mean,
no, Wonder Woman. No, they're done with that. Now they're talking Wonder Woman movie. But but a number of years ago they were talking about doing Flash, and they did Green Lantern, and I'm sorry to say that kind of bombed. But then they were talking about, and they've got to reboot, and they got to do all this shit to rebuild it. So like. You're talking about your Justice League franchise, but you've yet to even come out with Man of Steel.
Right.
So one thing at a time, guys. You don't even know. What if this movie flops?
Exactly. And the other biggest problem with the JLA is that they fight a lot of universe type, like out in space.
Yes.
They do a lot of space.
Right.
A lot like the Green Lantern.
Right. Yeah.
The problem is that we're so built up on having human-based characters. If you don't
Gotham City, Metropolis.
Exactly. If you don't have the character developed first and then go into a JLA, it's not going to work because it's off-world and people aren't going to be connected to it. I think that was the problem with Green Lantern, was that it all happened so fast that you never got connected to the character emotionally.
Right.
Like Batman, you connect instantly because you can know what it would be like, or you can imagine what it would be like to lose your parents. Superman, in some ways, you dream about. You're the ultimate fanboy character. I mean,
right.
He flies, he shoots lasers out of his eyes. I mean, he's perfect. So you relate to him in your own fanboy way.
Right.
All these characters have history, and so if you don't develop the history,
You got nothing to.
How are you going to make people be invested in a JLA? I mean, people they didn't even like Green Lantern. I mean, it's a big mistake. I don't think they should move into that realm. I think that they need to build their characters first and see how Superman does and see if it does well, and don't shoot your mouth off.
Yeah.
Before you even get
you shoot your mouth off when you've got you've got a failed Flash movie, you've got a failed Wonder Woman movie, then a Wonder Woman TV series, and then you've got a Green Lantern movie that flopped. The only thing you've got that was successful was the Nolan Batman movies, and that's not going to have anything to do with this.
Well, that's because Nolan recreated Batman. He kept the best elements and gave it a real-world feel.
Yes.
So you instantly gravitate to it. And not only you instantly gravitated, the Batman's backstory, everybody knows, just like Superman.
Right.
But you're instantly grabbed by it. I mean, you instantly relate to it. So
yes.
I think that's the biggest problem, is that if they jump into a JLA, it's too off-world, and you haven't had enough development. So it's a mistake. They're making a big mistake, and they're going to fall into a trap.
Yep.
And it's going to be a flop. And all of us are going to be destroyed by it.
Yes.
And we're going to be pissed off, just like we were pissed off at Lucas for screwing up the Star Wars series. I mean, I get so frustrated.
You're getting angry.
So, I mean, I hope the best for them, but let's just hope that they hold off and see how Superman does. And if it does well, then start building off that and make character films first. Don't worry about running head-to-head with Marvel.
Right.
Because Marvel's already run your ass over.
Just don't.
Do your own thing.
We'll see. They're going to shoot themselves in the foot, man.
Well, they're in the super comic book race in films, and I mean, it's ridiculous.
And you've lost already.
Exactly.
Just take what you've
got
got.
and build off that, and if your true fans like what you do, they'll follow you.
You'll build back up.
Exactly.
Anyway, so we're fucking all over the place right now. We went from Smallville to Marvel, then I think we dabbled.
Well, you got me talking more about DC than I've ever talked.
Oh,
I mean,
shit, man.
I was never a DC fan as a kid, but
and now we're about to jump back into X-Men, which is where we were. But
my realm.
We are all over the fucking place today, man. That's all right. So talk a little bit about First Class 2. Which as I reported, and I think this actually fell into my big fat fail category for a while. Days of Future Past is moving forward, and Fox has announced that we're going to see a cohesive universe, as we were discussing earlier, with their movie titles X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and we may even see a crossover film at some point down the line. So in the meantime, however, for fans of the comic book, it should come as no surprise that Days of Future Past it's gonna feature time travel, and it's gonna be set in a post-apocalypse future with motherfucking Sentinels.
That's what us fanboys have all been
We
waiting
were
for.
like, where are the fucking Sentinels?
Well, in the third film, you got the little head.
You got a little tease.
Yeah,
you got a little head.
A little bit of head.
Just the tip.
Yeah, just the tip of the head. You know, I'm excited in a way as a fanboy, hoping that they'll do it right, because I did like X-Men Origins.
First Class was good.
First Class. I actually enjoyed it.
Well,
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say my biggest problem was if it was marketed as a prequel to X-Men, and then I watched it and I was like, the plot inconsistencies between First Class and the X-Men trilogy are fucking huge, and now they're going back and saying, well, no, it's time travel. We're going to explain all the continuity errors with time travel.
Here's the problem. Even in the comic books, Marvel has messed up gazillion times by introducing time travel. I mean, every continuity issue that Marvel's ever had is because of time travel.
Right.
I mean, DC doesn't use it half as much as Marvel does. Back and forth, to the past, to the future.
Yeah.
Except
for when they want to reboot their continuity.
All I'm asking
yes.
is that if they do the Days of the Future Past, they do it right. We know that there's going to be some changes. We know that there's going to be some different characters.
Well, you've got Wolverine was like the main character of that whole thing. And
Wolverine and Kitty Pryde.
So first of all, first thing you're going to need to do is you need to get Hugh Jackman on board, and you need to get Ellen Page on board.
Right.
That's the first thing you need to do.
Here's the thing. As a fan, I would love to see the actors come back.
Yes.
They recast Kitty Pryde. It's probably going to happen. As much as we don't want
hasn't she been recast for every movie? I think for every X-Men movie she was recast. And then they finally got Ellen Page.
Well, the first film or the
second... She was
a
cameo.
And they didn't really explain that that's who she was.
Well,
except for him
the
saying
fans
Kitty.
knew.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if they do it, they definitely need to get a bunch of characters from previous films, of course, at least for flashbacks or whatnot.
Well,
future
funny
versions of themselves.
Yeah. Well, so far they've got returning stars Jennifer Lawrence, who played young Mystique, Michael Fassbender, who played young Magneto, James McAvoy, who was young Professor Xavier,
with hair,
and then who's Jason Fleming? I don't remember Jason Fleming. That's okay. Jason Fleming, he was in. I'm assuming.
What about Kevin Bacon? Oh yeah, we killed Kevin Bacon. Damn it.
That's right. Well, we can still connect him in 6 Degrees in some way or shape or form, but they're speculating could be joined by the return of Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Halle Berry, Ian McKellen, Anna Paquin. How the hell do you pronounce her name? Anyways, James Marsden, Ellen Page, and Sean Ashmore. So we don't know yet. Ashmore. No, Sean Ashmore, who was Iceman,
right,
in the movie. So we don't know if they're going to actually bring those characters in through time travel or not.
Well, if they figure out a way to close the gap so that the whole film series is a cohesive circle, I'll be all right with it. But I mean, there are some major gaps, and you know it, and the fans know it. I mean, there are some gaps that I don't know.
How the fuck are you gonna fix Professor Xavier becoming crippled when he was in his 20s? And then you see him in Origins Wolverine very clearly standing on his own.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I mean, you've got major continuity.
And he didn't have hair then either.
He didn't have hair. I
want to know how they're going to do the hair thing. See, in the last film, in X-Men Origins, or
still had hair at the
First
end
Class,
of it.
I thought he was going to use Cerebral and lose his hair.
Yeah.
But
nope, he still had hair by the end of it.
Exactly.
Well, they kind of did a little tongue-in-cheek thing, like,
McAvoy said he didn't want to shave his head.
Yeah.
So I mean, he was
and I was okay with that. He doesn't need to go bald for a young Professor Xavier. That's fine. I didn't have a problem with that. The only thing I did have a problem with was crippling him at the beginning of it. And then I heard someone else say, well, they're going to go back and do another prequel, and they're going to explain, and then he and Magneto are going to be friends again. I'm like, no, what the fuck? You can't do that. I would have preferred not to have him make that evil turn by the end of the first movie.
I don't think he made an evil turn. I mean, some people can say he made an evil turn, but the way
he sided with the mutants.
Exactly. And if you read the comics and you're a comic book fan, he does villainous acts. He's gone crazy and done some really crazy shit.
Yes.
But he's never really been a villain.
Right.
I mean, he's the X-Men's villain.
Yes.
But just because he's the X-Men villain doesn't mean he is the villain.
He's also fought with the X-Men on several occasions as well.
The AOA, Age of Apocalypse.
Right.
He was the leader. He's been the leader of quite a few.
When Charles died, he took over for him.
Exactly. So, I mean, for me, I think the Magneto character, he may come off as a terrorist, but I don't rule out the fact that they're going to have to work together in the next film. I think that would be a great thing for story ops because it gives you this play between you want more play between Charles and Magneto.
Right.
You want to see them bitch about who's right, who's wrong.
Right.
I want to,
And that was always the great thing about it, is because they were arch enemies, but they were still best friends at the same time.
Well, because they just have a different point of view, and I mean that's the whole thing about Magneto is that he's had a different point of view, and he's for the mutants.
Right.
And he's not. He's like, I don't care about anybody else. The mutants are my main priority.
Yes.
So.
Well, and this brings up an interesting thing, because that was also one of my biggest gripes with First Class was, Charles and Charles and Eric were supposed to be, friends for all these years and have this great friendship with each other, but then they just meet in part 1, and then they know each other for, maybe a month or two, and then all the events of the first movie happen, and then by the end of it, they go their separate ways. I'm like, what friendship did they really build on in that? There wasn't really much
Exactly.
of one.
So if they do another film, and these two are not exactly enemies, they're not exactly friends, but they communicate and work together for the greater good of whatever, then I can see it working. And I think, as a fan myself, that's what I went to First Class looking for.
Yeah.
I wanted to see a Magneto film, and I wanted to see an Xavier's film where these two play off each other and you see what their dynamic is. They gave you a little taste. Of course, as a fanboy, if I go and say, if it was like the comic books, I'd be pissed.
Yes.
It's not like the comics.
Mm-hmm.
But as a film person, they did a great adaptation, and I think they introduced some characters that I liked seeing. And that's my biggest thing, is that's what these these prequels are about for me is about the relationship between Magneto
Right.
and Xavier and how they work and how they become enemies, how they become friends over and over and over. So,
right. Well, I remain cautiously optimistic, so we'll see. But that's gonna wrap up on our coverage of the Weekly Geeklies. Man, we had a lot to say today.
Oh, yeah.
But we're about out of time. But before we get out of here, I want to just go ahead and kick off a little segment that I like to call Big Fat Fail.
It's time once again for another Big Fat Fail.
Big Fat Fail, of course, as you know, is a little segment in which I like to talk about stuff that just pisses me off. And this week, this is what we have to look forward to. You know, for the last couple of years, handful of years or whatever, I've been, you know, we've been bombarded with Twilight, and they have infiltrated our nerdy society. Like, you know, it kills me when I go to like Dragon Con and I see the Twilight cosplays and shit, and it's just to me, it's like, you don't belong here in my community of nerddom. Get out.
Well, my biggest problem is me being a vampire fan.
Yeah, you're a big horror person. And they've just raped that genre, haven't they?
20 years from now, all little kids are going to think that vampires sparkle
No,
in the
they're
sunlight.
fucking not, damn it.
Okay, Interview with the Vampire is the best vampire film in years.
It's a good one.
And I bow my head out. I'm sad. I'm sad. You know, it sounds awful, and this is going to sound like you're going to hate me for it. My wife read all the books. So, of course, me being the good husband that I am,
Watch the movies.
I watched the films, but I also listened to the audiobooks.
Okay.
Okay, from the audiobooks, all I got was this woman can't write for shit.
Yeah.
And that she's a 15-year-old girl stuck in a grown woman's body.
Yeah.
And then the films, if you take away the acting, you take away the script, and you watch it just to be entertained, there is some entertaining stuff.
You know,
But as a whole, if you put acting back into it, you put the script back into it, you don't strip it down to its foundation.
Yeah.
It's crap.
Well, I'll tell you this. I saw it on TV one night. It was the first movie, and I said, I'm going to put my preconceived notions aside, and I'm going to sit down and watch Twilight. I'm going to give it a fair shot. 20 minutes in, I was done. I was fucking done. I was like, nope. They were right. This movie is fucking this movie is dog shit. So I was done. And then every time the movie comes out, I'm like, a new one comes out. I'm like, fuck. How many more fucking books?
Well, here's what's funny is that the first two books, sad girl, sad girl, sad girl.
Yeah.
Third book,
Vampire Girl.
Vampire War. I'm what I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
I'm going to fight for my daughter who's growing 3 times rapidly faster than any child on the earth.
Right.
And, I mean, for the girls, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. You like this Edward character. You like this eternal love crap.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's cute.
But for us guys, it's garbage.
Yeah.
Don't make us watch it. Please.
But every time I see it, I'm like, oh, fuck, I gotta wait. And then, of course, like, it fills up my Facebook feed, and I gotta hear about it on Twitter and shit, and I'm just like, oh, God, just wait for this movie to be done. How many? And then the hype will be finished. Then the hype will be finished. Nope, Lionsgate's film has announced that they aren't finished torturing us by milking the Twilight cash cow. There may be a spin-off coming our way. It's in the works. They're keeping tight-lipped about it, other than the fact that they're working on it. But after this series finishes up, we can expect more movies or possibly a TV series set within their cohesive Twilight universe.
Check this out. From my wife, I get to bring my wife into it.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Don't let her listen to this.
Okay. So she said, "Well, did you know that they were going to write a book from Edward's perspective?" That's right.
Do I need to see the same story?
Hey,
he was there. Was he not there in the first movie?
The mopey vampire with the evil stares, and then I was told that she was going to do an Alice about Alice and her adventures or something.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
So I mean, please don't torture us anymore. Stop where you're at. You've made your money. Okay?
Nope.
All the little girls are happy, but by the time all these films are out, they're going to be grown, and hopefully they'll know better. And just stop. Just stop.
It's done.
We don't need a TV spinoff. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Making more money, sir. Making more money. That's what they're doing.
So, I mean, I love to play devil's advocate, and I always do, but I can't do it on this series. I mean,
no.
You know, from a standpoint...
Now, say what you got to say, man.
I just, you know, I love you. I love you, wife, but They're garbage.
Yeah.
They're garbage. They're garbage.
Yeah, you don't say that to the teenage girls though, man.
Well, here's the thing. I'm sympathetic. I get it. I get why you like it. I get why you love Edward. I get why you like the muscly werewolf guy. I get it.
Yeah.
I get why you like it.
I'm a werewolf.
I get it.
You're gonna be sorry.
I mean, trust me. You go back and you read the books over again. The writing is horrible.
Yes.
Okay. The writing is horrible, and you guys know it. All you fans know it. You just fall into this trap like anybody else who's watching Honey Boo Boo Child. you fall into this trap where you start to believe this crap can actually happen to you, where you'll find your eternal love and blah, blah, blah in the Fabio books. I mean, just stop. Lay it down. Enjoy it while you can and move on, okay? There's better things you can do with your life than worry about Edward and Bella's love. All right?
Well, damn, man. Usually, when I was doing the show with Steve, like, I was the hateful one, and he was the one that was trying to pull me back. Like, I think I'm the nice guy from here on in. I don't know what that says for the future of this show. Damn it. No, but no, we're gonna have the opportunity to talk a little bit more about some of the horror movies that you liked, and maybe some of the ones that I liked. Because coming up a week from now, we're gonna have Halloween right around the corner. So we're gonna come back with next week, and we're gonna have a Halloween episode
and trust
for
me,
you.
my mom, when I was 4, showed me the movie Cujo. That might explain a lot, Doolin.
Yeah, Cujo, you fucked up now.
A giant rabid dog trying to eat a child in a car.
Oh well, I mean, doesn't that define all of our childhoods?
Yes, right. Rabid dogs trying to eat us out of cars.
Yeah. So Ryan's a big horror aficionado, and so I'm gonna bring him back next week, and we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk a little bit more about all things that are scary, but not Honey Boo Boo, because there are kids.
That's scary, but it's not scary.
It's not. It's terrifying, but not for the same reason.
It just shows how low human society is become.
Yeah, oh God, don't get me started on that. The barbarians are at the fucking gates, folks. Don't even get me started on that. All right, man. Let's go ahead and get out of here, because we have done worn a hole in this thing. For NerdtopiaCast, I'm Doolin Dalton.
I'm Ryan Visingard.
Thanks for nerding out with us, guys. Good night. Find more free nerdy funny at www.nerdtopiacast.com, and be sure to check us out on iTunes and Stitcher.